Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be identifying the tour card holders in the top 64 who are most in danger of going back to Q School in 2022. I've identified 7 players who you've seen on telly multiple times who are in really big danger of actually losing their tour card this year and to go back through the system and the lottery that is PDC Q School. So the first player that we're going to start with is Mark McGeaney, who's an XBDO World finalist. He's struggled this year on TV. He's only made one major event, which is the UK Open, which all tour card holders automatically qualify for, and he only won one game against Scott Baker, so he has struggled a lot. His Pro Tour form has been questionable at best. He hasn't won many games on the Pro Tour, hence his really low ranking. He hasn't earned much money this year. He didn't qualify for the Players' Championship finals. You then look at his Pro Tour averages, and his average is it's over 7 points down as what it was in 2019. So you can see his levels drop remarkably, and it's not good enough. 84 average isn't good enough to survive on the PDC Pro Tour, so he's really going to struggle. He has to pick that up. He needs to qualify for some major tournaments if actually going to hold his ranking within the top 64. And then finally, if we look at the amount of money he's defended £39,500, which is 90% of his ranking. So by the end of 2021, all of the money from 2019 will have come off. He needs to earn another $39,500 this year to survive in the top 64 and earn that benchmark $44,000, $45,000, which is about what you need to stay in. Now, given that Mark McGeaney's only earned $4,500 this year, that looks really unlikely. So I think Mark McGeaney's a prime candidate for someone who could lose his tour card this year and end up back in Q School for 2022. The next player that I'm going to identify is Crystal Reyes. Now, I feel like Crystal might actually be in the most danger of anyone on this list other than our next candidate. He's defended 95% of his pot from 2019, so he is in a lot of danger, and to be honest, he hasn't played since March, so he's pretty much coming to the same point as some of the new tour card holders, but he's going to have to earn all of his money in 1 year, which is really tough to survive because these new tour card holders have 2 years to do this. Reyes effectively has 1 because all he's earned this year is 5% of his total earnings, so he's really going to struggle. His Pro Tour average is nearly 3 points down on what it was in 2019, but that's difficult to read into because Crystal Reyes hasn't been seen since March. He hasn't played since lockdown. We haven't seen him for a while. We're not sure what his form's like, but we know on his game, Crystal Reyes can survive, and he was one of the top 32 players not long ago, so he is a decent player. He's got potential, he's got quality, but scenarios have dictated that he's missed quite a lot of games. I think it's put him in a really difficult position. Although his Pro Tour form, he did make a last 16, so he has got form on the floor, but he needs to do that consistently. He's really going to need a run to make sure he gets into the World Championships and probably get through round 1 or 2 to give himself an actual chance. He could do with getting into the last 32 of the World Championships, earning that 25k and giving himself a serious chance, because right now he's pretty much sort of standstill, having to earn £45,000 in a year, and it's going to be tough. I think Reyes is in big trouble. Player 3 on the list is Kyle Anderson. Now, we also haven't seen Kyle Anderson since lockdown. He's back in his home country of Australia, and he hasn't come back. He hasn't been able to get back over. So with everything that's going on, Kyle Anderson's tour card's in huge danger. He's defended 97% of his money from 2019, so he's in a lot of bother, and he really needs to get back over on this tour and get playing, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, especially with what's happened with the UK lockdown. So I think Kyle Anderson is in a massive danger. There is a beacon of hope for any Kyle Anderson fans out there, because Kyle Anderson has actually averaged 94 in 2019. That's what his tour average was. And given the fact that these players, they're not going to make the match play or the Grand Slam probably, unless they qualify through the qualifier at the end of November, at the beginning of November. But they're not going to make the Grand Prix. So really, their sole survival is going to be dependent on the World Championship and the floor performances to get there, because you're going to have to go through the Pro Tour order of merit. So Kyle Anderson can play well on the floor. He has shown the potential and definitely can make it, and he's been a seed before at the World Championships. However, the big question is, can he do it when the pressure's on, especially if he can't make it over for the first 6 months of 2020? Personally, I think he's potentially the most danger of anyone on this list. But if you are a Kyle Anderson fan, there is a little bit of hope there, because he has got form and he is one of the best players that have included on this list with potential. I mean, we remember his 9 darter from 2014 in the World Championships. That showed already how young he was, and yet he still had a great amount of potential. So I think Kyle Anderson's got a chance, but it's very slim, and he will probably lose his tour card. Now the next one might shock you a little bit, but it's Darren Webster. Now, he's not on the bottom end of the top 64. He's currently sat 46th in the rankings at the end of 2020. However, he didn't make the World Championships this year, and he's missed out on a lot of TV events that he did make in 2019. That's left him in a situation to earn 86% of his earnings from 2019, and leaving him starting the year on only £13.5 thousand. What that means is he's effectively going to have to earn at least 31,000 to stay in the top 64, which is a much harder job than, for example, someone like Matthew Edgar, who only has to earn another, I think, 26,000 to stay in the top 64 for himself. So Darren Webster's left himself with a lot to do because his form in 2019 was really, really good. He earned a lot of money in 2019, but his 2020 form was poor. And Darren will admit that himself. His form hasn't been as good as it was. The big worry for Darren Webster fans is, despite this poor form, he's improved his average on the Pro Tour, which would suggest that, albeit he has been in the season of the World Championships, his game isn't to the same level that some of these guys on this list is. Darren Webster's, he's sort of a James Wade type. He wins matches a little bit scruffy, but he's put himself in a lot of danger. You know, can he up his level a couple more average points and get himself qualified through the Pro Tour order merit for the World Championships? Because we know when he gets on the stage, he can do it, he has got game, but it's just getting there, and that's the question. That's what everyone's going to be wondering when we see Darren Webster in 2021. So hopefully he can do, but I think he's going to struggle. His Pro Tour performances have left a lot to be decided this year, and his stage performances have as well. He obviously made the Players' Championship finals, but he was a reserve and only got in due to dropouts. So it's tough. I do think Darren Webster's got a lot of work to do, but of everyone on this list, he's started with the most money effectively from 2020, so he might have a chance, but we'll have to see. Player 5 on the list is Ted Everts. Now, Ted Everts has defended 86% of his earnings from 2019. He's only earned £7,000 this year, so he has struggled. Remember, Ted Everts lost to Fallon Sherrick at the World Championships in 2020. Whether that's had an effect on his confidence, I don't think so, but he hasn't had the same game since. His average points are down quite significantly because he was well up on the Pro Tour rankings to qualify for the World Championships last year. He was inside the top 16 of the Pro Tour players, not including the PDC top 32, and had good game. He was averaging 93, 94, so his Pro Tour form is there, and he can do it on the floor, but this year he hasn't done as well as he wanted to. He has made a last 16, so he has done well in that respect, but one last 16 performance in the Pro Tour is not going to get you qualified for the World Championships. You need to be doing that consistently week in, week out over the 23, 25, 30 sort of Pro Tours that we have, depending on the year and depending on the circumstances. But Ted isn't quite where he needs to be at this point in time. He's defending quite a bit of money. He's definitely in danger. The next player on this list is Josh Payne. This lad got really unlucky at the World Championships as he was going to be the reserve for the outgoing Martin Claymaker with COVID-19, and he would have faced Cameron Carrollison. However, Josh Payne was in contact with someone with COVID-19, so he's missed out on that match, missing out on the minimum $7,500 just to play in the game, but the likely win that he would have got against Cameron Carrollison, which would have put him £15,000 richer on the rankings and would have really given him a good chance of surviving. As it is, he missed the game, he missed the prize money, he's in a lot of danger. His tour average has been around about 90 this year, so it's not bad, but it's not exceptional. He's still in the bottom half. He's outside of the top 64 in tour rankings, so realistically, on his averages, you'd say he wasn't a top 64 player. Will that translate at the end of the year? I think it probably will. I think Josh Payne is sadly going to lose his tour card. He did qualify through the Pro Tour order merit last year, however, he wasn't closed this year, so it's going to be difficult, and he really needs a good performance. He needs to qualify through the Pro Tour order merit for the World Championships. That's the be-all and end-all, and he's going to have to work for it. Final player we've got on this list is James Wilton, otherwise known as Lethal Biscuit / Chamois Dodger, two of the best nicknames in darts. Now this guy, he's defended 77.7% of his money, so it's not as much as some of the other guys, and he has got a decent starting position because he's going to start on £10,000. It's 1,000 less than Payne will start on, but you look at his position and you think, yeah, you know what, Josh Payne and James Wilson have both got potential and they both could survive, especially with a little bit of a benchmark and a head start over the likes of Cristo Rares. James Wilson's average hasn't been brilliant this year, he's only averaging 89, and it's a little bit of a drop off on previous years, but James Wilson, we've seen a lot of potential for him on the stage that he can play. The last few years, he hasn't been as good as he was when he first came up to the PDC, and we remember back when he was in the BDO and he was world #1, he was really pushing the boundaries and he looked like someone who could come over and make the top 32, make potentially even the top 16 and do a Glenn Darren and really prove himself in the PDC. It hasn't come off for James Wilson, but he'll be very determined to survive and stay and keep his tour card. So there's going to be a lot of work to be done, especially on the Pro Tours, because he's going to need to earn around about 16,000 over the Pro Tour events this year, which is something he didn't do last year. I think that puts him in a lot of danger, and I think James Wilson could definitely be one of them that loses a tour card. Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed that video. I've tried my best with the graphics on the top hand corner of the screen. I've never done it before and I'm only on my phone, so hopefully that does clear things up for you and it makes it a little bit more easy to understand. But yeah, these are the tour card holders that I think are most in danger of losing a tour card. Obviously other players could do, and there's players that I haven't named that are outside of the top 64 that only have a 1 year tour card because they qualified in 2020 through the Q school. However, I'm not going to name them. These are the players who I think are big names who could lose their tour card. I hope to catch you all in the next video, guys. We'll see you then.